Pavlovich versus Curtis Blaydes. I mean, this is very significant to the division. Do you guys know they're fighting? They're fighting this weekend. You know, Pavlovich. Okay, so this fight that's coming up this weekend has been announced for a period of time. When Pavlovich went on March 4th and was the backup fighter for Ciryl Gane and Jon Jones, this fight with Curtis Blaydes was already announced. It was already sitting here. Tickets were already sold. It was already the main event. That fight was broken up. One half of that fight was broken up for Pavlovich to come over here and do the weigh-in thing. Now, Ciryl showed, Jon showed, Pavlovich just goes right back to that same position and says, no, it never happened. As a matter of fact, I don't think you can find a headline on it. As a matter of fact, if you do a Google search right now, I don't think that you will find an accompanying visual with the headline. By example, I don't think you can find a picture of Pavlovich on the scale that day. It just went away. The fact that camp had been interrupted, the peaking process had been interrupted. The studying of one opponent became two opponents back to the initial opponent. All of the things, and that's a lot, all of the things that Pavlovich had to do to stand down over there, be ready for March 1st against Jon Jones or Ciryl, right? A grappler versus a kickboxer. And then come right back over. It's a lot. It's the kind of thing that if he had success against Curtis Blaydes, we'd make him a #1 contender. Inside of a division that you couldn't name 5 guys. Inside a division where the most popular guy is Tuivasa and the most dangerous guy, Tom, we don't know if he's still on an injury list. I just read something on Aspinall, by the way, about a week ago, by the way, that he is coming back, that he is back in the gym. I don't think he has a fight book, but you still understand my point. Heavyweight's in a very odd position. Nobody's ever done anything to help Curtis Blaydes, and I don't know how that could be. Curtis Blaydes goes and fights Francis. He loses in seconds. It's like 30 seconds. Do you know how scary that would be? Somebody says go and another man annihilates you in 30 seconds. Guess what Curtis said when it was over? He said he wanted to fight him again. They laughed at him, but nobody else wanted to fight him, so they put Curtis back in there again, this time in a different country. He goes out there, he made it about 4 seconds less. Flies back from that country to his own country, and guess what he asked for again? Wanted to fight him again. We can't get guys to get in there with him one time. Curtis has already done it twice and is asking a third time. We like guys like that. Now we've elevated him to a main event. Within main event status, and this is just off the top of my head, but he got the jump on Tom Aspinall. He got the jump on the Black Beast. No, Derek beat him. Derek came back and beat Curtis, didn't he? All right, and then Curtis getting back on his feet went into Tom Aspinall. Point is, he's a main event fighter. Point is, on this coming card, he's going to be in the main event against a guy who they've already said is good enough to fight for the world championship. He's good enough, and we know that is being signified by the fact that he was a backup fighter for the world championship they were going to put him in. It's Sergei Pavlovich. He's 30 years old. I used to have the side off the top of my head. It's a beautiful record and one. Got a really beautiful record. There's a Russian guy. He used to wrestle real hard, but he only came up through the junior ranks. Right after the junior ranks, he never pursued like world and Olympic aspirations. He got into MMA. But he's a beast. He comes forward. He fast. It's going to be a handful for Curtis Blaydes. Either way, what happens to the winner? I mean, Curtis Blaydes is fighting in main events, and he's winning. There's nowhere higher you can go. We can't pull Curtis to a lower position if he keeps winning. I'll say the same thing about Pavlovich. We don't pull his placement to a lower spot. Once you're a main event and you're winning, we keep you in main events and or we move you into title shots. That's the way that this works. But you've got Curtis Blaydes, who by the X's and O's is the hardest opponent for Jon or Stipe, in all fairness. But then you got Pavlovich, which everything we've seen is just pure destruction and getting better. And unless you've got a world-class, and I do mean world-class takedown and ability to keep him there, you don't have a whole lot of ways to deal with this guy. Very impressive young fighter. But I'm just asking, where do they go from here? Because all we know is it's not to a world title fight. The only thing that we know is where they don't go from here. When you sign, this is like number 2 versus number 4. This is number 3 versus number 4. I mean, this is a big 2 guys in the top 5. You tell me another time in history we had 2 guys in the top 5, main event, any weight class, and that the winner didn't become the #1 contender. You'd have a really hard time. You might be able to do it with extenuating circumstance, but you'd have a really, really hard time. We're not even in a position to talk about it. They aren't in a position to start calling for title matches. We're told that our heavyweight championship is going to be kicked until winter of 2023. We are told that the election process for both the GOP and the Democrats will be in final stages before the heavyweight championship is even contested. So what are these guys fighting for? I mean, where do they go? I'm just asking, what do you think happens? Tom's good. Tom matters. Tom's coming back. Tom and Curtis, they've got some business. They got a fight that they need to finish. So if Curtis wins and Tom gets healthy, do we put them back in there right away? I mean, I'm just asking. Well, what if Curtis doesn't win? What do we do with Pavlovich? Does Tom go in there with him? Do you got another name, right? This is Sergei, but there's also a Sergei or vice versa. They're both killers. Somewhere we got to go find that guy and start to bring him up. But either way, whatever you're fighting for, you're not fighting until a guy that is so unprofessional he can't answer his telephone gets done taking on another guy who hadn't done it for 2 years but is ranked in front of you, and he'll show up when he feels like it. And to hell with what you've achieved. I mean, at some point, I'm just asking, what are we doing it for? What are we doing it for? Do we just like to see people hit each other? Is that what this is? Do we like to see people kick each other? Like to see who can get on top of who gets tired, who quits faster? Why are these guys fighting? And at any other time in history, I could tell you. I wouldn't need an answer. I wouldn't need Dana White to weigh in and make it official. If you have two guys in the top 5 fighting on the worldwide leader of ESPN in a main event, they're fighting for a #1 contendership. But the match itself, which is unsigned, isn't even rumored to be going to take place until November of this year. That is nobody's fault but the heavyweights. They got a problem. They created the problem. Enjoy your problem.